I'm Chef Jeff Trombetta from the Hospitality Management program at the University of New Haven in Connecticut. And today I'm going to show you how to make a cream of wild rice and chicken soup. So we're going to saute in butter. Now this is going to be a cream of, and so we're going to do a little bit of puree, and you can notice that I added a fair amount of butter. And the reason is because we're going to thicken this with flour or a roux. Once our vegetables are tender, our celery and our onions, we're going to bind it with flour. And so I'm going to put a little garlic right in the beginning, and we'll do our sweating technique. So while our vegetables are sweating and they're almost ready, we're going to cream this at the end. So I have some half and half heating up. And the reason why I heat up the half and half is because it's called tempering. Half and half is not as stable as heavy cream. If I add a cold to my soup, it could curdle. What we have here is we have our vegetables. They're well sweated. I could tell by their translucent color that they're tender. To add my flour, enough to thicken up the soup. Now this flour is binding up the butter, and that's a roux. So this is going to be a blonde roux, slightly cooked out. And that's actually an important step. Cook out your flour. In other words, let it cook out so it doesn't stick to the roof of your mouth and it's not so gummy. Now anytime you have a roux in a pot, now that means it's going to be thick, especially when I add my liquid. It could burn. Turn that heat down. Matter of fact, turn it off, because blending is going to be important here. Hot roux, hot chicken stock, it's going to lump. What I do is I turn it off and I let it sit for about 10 or 15 minutes. You have to give the liquid a chance to relax. If I try to stir it now, it's going to lump. So now that our soup has rested, it has slowly absorbed into the roux. We whisk it up to a boil. It shouldn't take too long because the stock was pretty hot. And notice that it's not quite thick yet. And the reason why it's not quite thick is because any kind of starch, a roux or cornstarch, to take on its thickening characteristics means that it has to come to a boil, or actually a little bit below a boil. It has to get hot. Then you'll see how it thickens up. So our soup is at a boil. Consistency is thick, maybe too thick. I can use the half and half or more stock to thin it out. It's going to get a little bit harder when I add my wild rice and chicken. While it's cooking, continuing to cook out that starchiness. I'm pureeing the onions and celery. I want it to be smooth. It is going to be a little texture in the soup itself. Still be able to taste the texture differences between the wild rice, the chicken, and the soup. So we have a nice textured soup, and I have nice diced chicken. This is white meat, diced raw chicken. I just constantly striving for flavor. So what I mean by that is by adding the raw chicken, it's like making a double chicken stock here. And it's cut so small it'll cook quickly, and because it's poaching in the soup, it'll deliver a lot of extra flavor. A stock is made with bones and a broth is made with meat. So now I have a broth because I'm deriving my flavor from the meat. This thing is going to be like velvet, and it's going to taste delicious. So I'm keeping the diced chicken separate by stirring it. Now this is true Minnesota wild rice, fancy wild rice, top grade. You boil it till it blisters open. It's a tight grain. So this has to be pre-cooked. It takes a half hour of cooking and a half hour of sitting in the broth that it cooked in for it to swell and plump. And it's got a very chewy texture. It's actually not even a rice. It's a grass. And the store is $6 a pound, and you could very easily pay $12 a pound. The only thing it would need is pepper. Now I'm going to use white pepper, ground white pepper. I don't want to make it peppery, I just want to season it. And what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to see the white pepper. We're finishing the soup, and that's our half and half that we brought up to temperature. That creams the soup, and that should finish it. I'll give it a final taste. You can see how it lightened it up. The consistency is absolutely perfect. A little bit of touch of thyme for freshness. Thyme is great in soups. Very aromatic, minty kind of, pungent a little bit, but mild. Shallow bowl, doily underneath. This way in a shallow bowl, I could see all my components. It's hearty, it's velvety, Got a nice texture. This soup, classic. We're going to put a little bit of nasturtium, flanked by a little bit of these closed pansies. Let's see what this wild rice cream of chicken soup is. It's to die for. I'm Chef Jeff Trombetta, Hospitality Management, University of New Haven in Connecticut. And enjoy your wild rice and chicken soup.